Well, while the temperatures are still holding up, I want to show you some more highlights in our tropical garden. Now, the ones I'm going to show you today would most likely be considered woody ornamentals, even though the majority of them won't overwinter in most of Oklahoma. However, some of them will, and we'll talk about that. The one in the back here gives us the height in the back of our planting bed, and it's actually called Indian Hawthorn or India Hawthorn. And those of you in southern Oklahoma are probably familiar with hawthorn. Usually grows more as a smaller shrub. It is in the rose family and related, and has usually flowers that are purple or pink or white. Now, we've not really had any flowering yet because these are topiaries where they've been trained and pruned to make this top growth on them. And actually that would make them even more susceptible to the cold winter. So these are some that we would have to dig up and pot again to take care of them and keep them over, especially if we want to keep the height on them. Now, this particular one, the variety or the series is called Majestic Beauty Indian Hawthorn. The particular cultivar of this one, though, is Montique. And again, it's really not bloomed for us much this year, but most people have enjoyed the new growth coming out because of its bronzing color. Some people have even wondered if it's disease, and you'll notice that it's just a kind of a felty type powder on the foliage and really nothing to worry about. That's characteristic of it, and it gives it a little bit of nice fall color as well. Now, when we drop down to the next planting here, this is Oleander, and those of you who've traveled along the Gulf Coast are familiar with this one. And again, it's hardy up to some areas of southern Oklahoma. You'll also see it in the Dallas area. But this particular one is Oleander that's a dwarf one called Morocco Petite, and Monty is a cultivar, and you see it has a white flower. And they'll bloom pretty much all summer long. You'll also see pink colors, purplish colors, even a reddish rosy color. But it likes salt and heat and hot weather, and that's why it does so well in the Gulf Coast areas. Now, the thing I want to tell you about this one is every part of this plant is extremely poisonous, from the flower to the leaves to the stem, and you'll notice the leaves are strap-like. But when I used to live in Florida, I would hear stories of people that would go in and break off these strap-like pieces, peel the foliage back, and then use them for skewers to put like marshmallows and things on, and even die from eating the marshmallow that was placed on the stick part. So if you're going to put this in your landscape and you have small children or pets, you want to be very careful because, again, this one is extremely toxic. But the conditions it likes is one reason that it's grown so often in those harsh conditions of salt and heat. Now, the lowest one here in front is called Exora, and if you look at that name, it looks very interesting and difficult to pronounce, but again, it's called Exora. This particular variety is Maui, and usually you'll see this grown in a hedge format. It responds very nicely to shearing. The uniqueness about it, I think, though, is the color of the flower. There's not too many flowers that are that intense of an orangish red color. And even when it's getting ready to flower, just the cluster with the closed buds are very nice too. Sometimes it will go ahead and make berries as well, but it's not that common. Of the three we've talked about, the Exora is probably the most cold sensitive and would not really overwinter anywhere in Oklahoma, where the other two, with some protection, sometimes you can have luck, especially if you're in the southern part. Now, with any of these, they're going to be very expensive when you buy them initially as a woody ornamental in a container. But the nice thing is that you can take cuttings on any of these. The Oleander and the Exora are very easy to propagate, and the Hawthorn is marginal. But you would do just like we showed you earlier on, take about a 4-inch cutting, and you can peel off the bottom leaves, and you may need to trim those off a little bit more. And then just once again, you would want to dip it in some rooting hormone, shake off the excess, and just pop them right in your 4-inch containers. Same principle holds true again too. If any of the cuttings have flowers on them, be sure and cut those out or pinch them out because it takes away from the energy. But real easy to propagate, and again, this might fit in nicely into your color scheme. Some nice options that take a little bit more work to grow them year after year, but I think the reward is very breathtaking in most landscapes.